She started getting headaches and stomach aches. They told me it was mono. In my gut, I knew something was wrong.
When you have a daughter who can't get out of bed and you don't know why, that's frightening.
Very often when patients come in, they've had every test. You've had certainly MRIs and x-rays, and they sort of miss the elephant in the room.
Every time we asked the doctor, what is the root of the problem, they said, we will never understand the root of the problem. What we can do is deal with the symptoms.
It's really frustrating that medical doctors won't be more open to natural medicine when I was sick for 14 years and on antibiotics about 10 of those years.
We're seeing patients that truly have had the best healthcare money can buy. They've been to every specialist, and they're sort of missing this important piece.
I had lost all faith in doctors, and I came here, and he restored my faith and hope again.
When she was starting to get well, I said, she's got her life back. And then I said, wait, she never had a life, and now she has a life.
Alternative treatment has not been allowed to flourish in the medical community. It's basically been stifled, and the doctors have to go out on a limb.
Most of the time in medicine, what they're saying is let's just block the symptoms. I'd want to know what the symptoms are so that it helps me understand what's going on in the patient. I don't want to block them, I want to resolve them.
This is my feeding tube. I've been on it for 3 months and 1 week. They put the feeding tube in because I was just starving to death. I couldn't even suck on a mint without the pain and it going through me. And so I didn't chew gum, I didn't drink water, nothing. Western medicine, couldn't find anything. I went to numerous doctors, and my husband said, what do we do now? And she looked at him and she goes, I don't know. Go home. She was sending me home to die. I have 4 kids, and they just lost me. My family watched me just slowly die.
We had a nice long cry, and we got past that. We had to sit down and say, what's going to happen when you're gone? What life is going to be like when she isn't here, and what is going to be okay in her mind of how I raise our children. And
they did the blood work here, and there was so many parasites. They put me right in. We started the infusions. One of the biggest things that I got when I came was hope. We'll fix this. We will fix this. You will be okay. We walked away knowing that I was gonna make it. You know, my husband walked away going, I'm not gonna bury my wife. We immediately started to see those treatments working. I have color, I have energy, I'm functioning. It's a slow process. We figured that I've had Lyme since I was little, but I get those moments, you know, the first time I was able to walk back outside in the sunshine by myself, alone. The simple things that we take for granted every single day. I can remember starting to smile again. I didn't think that you could lose smiling. You do. You lose everything. Just over 3 weeks ago, we were able to pull the feeding tube. I try and introduce like a new food every couple days. I am able to be up and around with the kids. I'm a mom that likes to be involved and be the room mother and to do all of that stuff, to get to be a part of it, and I haven't been able to do any of it. I mean, nothing.
In the medical field, the individual doctors are often wonderful. They care for their patients. There is no question in my mind that they want to do what's best for their patient. But if they are only educated in one direction, and that is pharmacology or surgery, they simply are not going to look in other directions.
When it's appropriate, drugs are good. The bottom line is it's not applied properly. And that's my gripe. It isn't that I'm anti-drug, it's that I'm anti the way drugs are prescribed in such an indiscriminate fashion.
We live in a culture where we want results right now. You know, whether that's to pop something in the microwave and have dinner in 10 minutes, or, you know, go have a surgery, or pop 3 pills because, You have the euphoria of feeling good for a moment, but all that's doing is masking the problem. You know, you don't need to go all the way to Iraq or Afghanistan to find combat. Combat is right here. And if healthcare is about just making money, then we have lost focus of the mission.
To me, the ultimate two questions are, why are we sick? And what do we need to do to get and stay well? The only way that we can be healthy is to be and seek out and find and stay in, as much as possible, a healthy environment. Is it possible that we're ever going to express our full genetic potential for well-being in the industrial environment we've now created? No. Is it possible that we could reduce chronic illness, live better, longer lives to a degree which is almost unimaginable? Unequivocally, yes.
So where do we start?
Going for a 30-minute walk 5 days a week can reduce heart disease and diabetes and obesity by 90%. Eating some more raw fruits and vegetables, even if you keep eating the other junk. Taking some simple things like omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D, which are pennies a day, which we know have an astronomical benefit. If you can imagine that medicine's the fire department and your house catches fire, it's wonderful. They can come and save your life. What tools do they have? They have axes and fire hoses, drugs and surgery. But it would make no sense to call them back the next day to spray your house down again. And it would make no sense to have your house regularly sprayed down so that you didn't get a fire, because the things that are useful in an emergency are not the same things that provide us with our genetic requirements for nutrition, for exercise, etc. The focus has gone from how we live in the environment that we've created for ourselves to looking inside through a microscope to try and find out this weakness that's causing this illness. And so our well-being is totally dependent upon the quality of the ecosystem that we live in. It's not about being an environmentalist, it's about being a humanist. As the population increases and the consumption rate increases, there has to be a point when we have to say to ourselves, is this sustainable? There's this long delay that's occurred between the consequences of our actions destroying the environment we live on and the consequence which is going to destroy us, because the laws of this earth or this universe are laws that we cannot live outside of.
One of the largest obstacles that we have is the way we grow food in this country, both with how we're growing our crops as well as how we are growing and raising our animals. Our crops are all genetically modified. They're monoculture, full of chemicals, preservatives, and dyes, completely lacking and missing nutrients. So when we consume these foods, they become us. They're dead. There's no vitality. There's no energy in them. They disrupt our own body processes. So it's no wonder that we're seeing all the chronic diseases that we're seeing because of what we're consuming. People really need to educate themselves about eating whole, clean, live, vibrant food, because it turns into you.
Soil is a living organism. And when we continue to kill it with too much commercial fertilizers, we're just killing the soil, which is killing the plants that grow in it, which is killing us because we eat them. The health of the nation is in direct proportion to the health of our soil. We need to learn how to take care of our soil so it'll take care of us. Chemical fertilizers allows us to get high yields, so we get lots of pounds over the scales. But the consumer doesn't get the benefit of that because there's no minerals, there's no substance in the food.
You can only breed a cow up so big to milk so much. Something eventually is going to break down. Mother Nature took millions of years to breed up these seeds, and some investors or our government or whoever is pushing all this nonsense, it's going to catch up with us.
Food is our medicine. You can afford to pay a little higher price for food if you know it's healthy. Farm policies have never been about better farms. Farm policies have always been about cheaper food. If you're in politics, if you're in power, the cheaper you can feed the mass population, the happier they're going to be.
I don't know where it's going to end. I really don't. And it's scary. I'm an 11th generation farmer, and it's going to probably end with me. And it's heartbreaking.
And I've been really fortunate as I've met more people, I've learned more. It's enabled me to expand my boundaries. For me, I felt if I stopped moving, I start dying. And while I'd never tell anybody else what to do, I've seen people who are in wheelchairs due to MS, and part of me thinks, could that be because they followed their doctor's orders?
I have to say I'm really impressed, because I would think that there would be a lot of fear, and I usually do sense that from a lot of people, but I totally get like a calmness from you about this, which I believe is absolutely essential to having a healthy immune system.
There's a chunk of me that believes I can get past this. And, you know, 14 years later, I'm still hanging on to that.
I think the first thing really is to get your diet right and to make it be a lifelong thing, and that means making it fun.
We keep referring to the farming with the pesticides and everything you're not as conventional, where what you do is how we farmed forever, right?
Right. Conventional farming basically is a synthetic system. The source of most of their nitrogen is fossil fuel based, where the source of our nitrogen is from usually manures or a green cover crop. One of conventional agriculture's #1 arguments is organic can't feed the world. And really, after 12 years at this farm, I really think we can, and it's a sustainable way to do it. We last year beat the state average yields for every single grain crop on our farm. The average yield of oats in the state was 66 bushel. We had 93. This is a beautiful soil, and I've really honestly come to believe, you see the aggregation in it and the way it crumbles. It has room for oxygen and nutrition, and so an organic person works really hard at maximizing the health of their soil, and then they let the plants get what they need themselves. Conventional farming is much more prescriptive, and they're feeding the very top of the soil. The roots don't have to go real far. Organic roots have to go much deeper because they need to find the nutrition they need on their own. You get a vibrant vegetable and I think a very healthy body as a result. Possibly the most important choice people can make for their family is how they eat.
95% of the soy in this country has been genetically modified. We've taken a piece of DNA that comes from a virus, and we've spliced that to a piece of DNA that comes from a bacteria, and we've put that into the soybean DNA. So a virus, a bacteria, and now a plant, their DNA are all being mixed. So you've created DNA that's very bizarre, that the body recognizes as a terrible foreign invader, and then we're consuming that. In the past 20 years, since we've seen genetically modified foods introduced into this country, our rates of autoimmune diseases have gone up 400%. Terrible.
Industrialization has really started to penetrate into the organic market. Not only is the genetic engineering a problem by creating antigens that have never existed before, but also a big portion of the reasons why these seeds are genetically engineered is to provide resistance to very potent and powerful herbicides. The primary one is glyphosate or Roundup, and that is just pervasive in all these foods because they spray it like crazy so these weeds don't grow up, and it's highly contaminated, and it's a very potent systemic influencer of hormones and other complications.
What do you think about genetically modified food?
Personally, I'd stay away from them.
We've managed to make a seed that doesn't produce life.
And that's on purpose, so you continually buy their seed, so you can't harvest your own seed.
Doesn't that seem fundamentally wrong? I mean, isn't that what a seed's supposed to do?
Yes, it is.
It has no life cycle beyond itself, and that's what we're feeding ourselves. How much nutrients in that?
It's virtually impossible to pass effective legislation to provide the simple basics of letting people know whether or not the food they're purchasing has genetically engineered components or not. They have made very specific and vigorous efforts to prevent people from even becoming aware.
Fortunately, there's really a huge food movement that is arising. It gets better on a wide scale when consumers start demanding that genetically modified foods be labeled. When those are required to be labeled, then people wake up and they start spending their dollars on non-GMO foods, and that will shift. It's happening already. It really goes back to the roots of what being a physician is all about, which is looking at the whole person.
I think that if all physicians thought this way, opened their minds up to alternatives, opened up the communication streams of who knows what where. In other words, we're conversing with Eastern medicine, for example. We're looking more at holistic approaches. We're looking at suitable alternatives, both mechanically with regards to rehabilitation therapy and pharmaceutically with regards to things other than prescription-based drugs, we would find more alternatives, bona fide alternatives that work to be able to offer our patients in terms of getting them better. I absolutely believe that's the case. You're starting to see it happen.
There are other complementary alternative medical modalities, what they call CAM modalities, that have yet to really be clearly elucidated, but in my mind make a lot of biologic sense. All of my patients post-operatively are getting ginger oil as well as peppermint oil in their oxygen mask. A lot of the chemical constituents of plants from all around the world have dramatic therapeutic capacity to go into the cell, go into the brain, go into the joint, and provide great anti-inflammatory care.
We're seeing a new generation of medical students and doctors rising up saying, how can we be more collaborative with alternative health, holistic health, osteopathic medicine, other things that we don't really know about and that we don't fully understand? How can we have a dialogue? What is in the best interest of this patient? And I think when we start to do that, we're going to learn a lot.
If you were to ask me about 30 years ago when I was a medical student at the University of Pennsylvania, if I were going to be seeing a chiropractor as the main healthcare provider in my life, I probably would have said you were nuts. Well, after 8 years of residency, I found out what about every other surgeon finds out, which is that doing surgery is very hard on your spine. I can remember coming home at night in so much pain. And I remember saying to my wife, I said, I don't think I'm going to make this. I think I'm going to have to switch careers. For the past 20 years, you really have become the main healthcare provider for what has basically kept me in practice.
It's been very interesting, this transformation within this profession and really within the allopathic profession, who just 15 to 20 years ago was a whole different scenario in terms of their perception of chiropractic, their understanding of chiropractic, and their acceptance.
The whole mindset of healthcare is starting to get refocused in a very patient-centered, evidence-based, directed healthcare in which the patient has choices to make. And it's the choices that they didn't have before that, in my mind, is going to change the landscape of the way healthcare is delivered.
The baby boomers pushing for all these alternative methods of care. They wanted other answers. They didn't want to just go to a physician and have them prescribe medication and say, take this and it's going to get better. They wanted to know what they could do, how they could prevent further episodes.
The ability to think and really problem solve in a new way, it really helps to invigorate and bring joy back into the practice.
It should be a joint process of physicians from different disciplines working together to create a paradigm of what we're capable of producing in this country.
Many of us are moving into this realm where it's a team. We approach problems from multiple angles. Just like any disease is multifaceted, it's just plain good care.
Irresponsibility is taking its toll on society today, and that has to change. The time is now for other methods in healthcare. Number one is personal responsibility.
Prevention is starting a lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle from when you're a teenager. How do we maintain wellness? How do we keep people healthy?
We are entering into a very interesting era of patient attitude, patient empowerment, and that's why I'm so optimistic about tomorrow. If we can change the system so that the patient is empowered better and cared for better, that's what it's all about.
You have to know where you came from before you know where you're going. One of the problems in chiropractic, Dave, the fact that this has been a singular, isolated profession, kept from telling its story. We're saying that we have a right to exist as a viable healthcare delivery system that has been in existence for 85 years and has proven its worth on millions and millions of people. Why try to destroy us? Why try to boycott us? The bottom line in this whole deal is, do the consumers of this country have a freedom to choose the healthcare provider of their choice?
You know, 6 months ago when I was dropped off at the airport, I was asked, pleaded, begged to come back.
I'm not back, but I'm getting there. All kinds of pain, all kinds of misdiagnoses, all kinds of drugs later. Complete with 2 detoxes, 2 stints in detox. One lockdown, very scary. One halfway house, which I got all the way out of after one night. It's all by way of saying I am on my way back. I'm getting there, and I will complete that trip in the really, really near future.
Hi, my name is Evan.
Yeah, your name's Evan, and how old are you going to be, Evan?
4.
When are you going to be 4?
On July 17th.
Oh, yay. What do you have on your face?
I have dimples.
You have dimples?
I have dimples. I know how to use them.
Where are we? We're in California?
We're in California.
Anaheim.
We're going rafting. We're going to get really wet. We're going to talk to you after. Yeah, we're going to get wet.
Recording, yep.
Thank you.
Sweet. We made it to the Pyrenees, south of France. About to start the Camino de Santiago and heading towards Spain. I'm healthy, I'm happy, life's good.